Join us as we delve deep into dangerous patient care moments and our chosen responses.
You and I mutually shared dialogue with a particular doctor who he asked something which I think is a real important question. He said, so what do you consider some of the most dangerous moments in a patient's process, in a patient's care? You want to frame that a certain way? Because I think you know what I'm bringing up.
Yeah, absolutely. So when people bring something to our attention, whether it's in a doctor's office or really in any aspect of life, how do we respond? And recognizing the first is to be aware of the person's statement, and then what our chosen response is really significant. And learning from experiences is very helpful, and that's why we're here to invest, not talking at you, but engaging you in a process of insights of how to engage conversations that will lead to longevity in relationships.
Yeah, all relationships. So person ends up asking me, what do I think are the most dangerous moments, or what's a most dangerous moment in the process of helping a patient? And my response was very counterintuitive to the individual who asked. I said, I think the most dangerous moment in a patient's process of receiving care, and I say this to them on a regular basis, is if they end up feeling better. If a patient ends up feeling better, that could be the darkest, worst moment in their process towards really receiving help.
So I love you bringing that up, because right there is provoking people to say, wait a second, I mean, isn't that the goal of a healthcare provider, to provide a vehicle so that a person feels better as a result of the care in your office?
Not a healthcare provider. I mean, if you're truly a healthcare provider, now most people under the banner of healthcare providers are acknowledged as though they're healthcare providers, but they're really not healthcare providers, they're symptom relief providers. And this is the conundrum of most forms of healthcare versus allopathic care. So if we're healthcare providers, we're seeking to help people achieve health, which by definition is a state of optimal physical, mental, social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So absence of symptoms does not equal health. So if someone's a healthcare provider, they really wouldn't be interested in when a patient says, I feel better. Now, they'd be interested in that it's lovely and it's nice, and of course I would pray that people get to feel better, but that's potentially the darkest moment in a patient's process, because most patients, if they achieve feeling better, usually they return to caring less for the behaviors they need to change to advance further into functioning better. So feeling better becomes an out clause. Feeling better becomes an exit ramp from the pursuit of greater decisions, followed by greater actions, so we can pursue higher function. So the feel-good moment becomes an exit ramp from everything else that we needed to do.
So I love that first part of this awareness is recognizing potential exit ramps. Exit ramps in healthcare, exit ramps in terms of relationships with your primary person and with your kids, and then recognizing from that awareness, moving into that phase of, well, this is how I currently responded, and what's a different way to respond?
Well, and you know, we bring this conversation here, but it really applies to all mediums, right? When people are comfortable in a marriage, that could be the most dangerous place for a marriage to be, because they might not be pursuing counseling, pursuing difficult conversations, pursuing digging into things. So, you know, I say this because clinically, I mean, I've sat with over 14,000 patients, or maybe even way more than that in my career. So I have that many case studies in my inventory of concern for human beings, tugging at how do I really make a difference as a healthcare provider? And whether I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon, whether I'm a dentist, whether I'm a chiropractor, whether I'm a physical therapist, I would submit that I would pray and hope that all my peers look upon a moment when a patient says, I'm feeling good, as potentially the darkest moment in their process, if the patient then uses that as an exit ramp for concern for what to do next at a higher level. But that would mean that the doctor too doesn't want to help people just feel better. The doctor really wants to help people function better, think better, make choices better, therefore have a world that lives better. So I would submit that friends of mine that are cardiologists, if they get a patient on a med that helps them balance blood pressure numbers, because the blood pressure numbers, just yesterday we had a woman in the building, her blood pressure was at 205 over a 110, and she said, yeah, it hits that sometimes. I'm like, no, we need to get with your doctor. Now, when's the last time you saw your cardiologist? Oh, I haven't seen him in a long time. So, well, what are you doing with him to get off of your blood pressure meds? And she looked at me like she couldn't even relate to, like, aren't you working with your cardiologist to no longer be on blood pressure meds?
Yeah.
And she said,
Well, that's an unknown conversation. The most people aren't trained to know to even ask that.
about. So,
You know, yeah.
So I would urge, it doesn't matter what specialty of a healthcare provider, physician you may be, or we may be, but is our objective really to help people function better? And if it is, potentially the darkest moment is when someone thinks they have a hall pass to abandonment of ideal living.
So let's get into the shift of what's the A&D. In TLC, we like to say, what's the A&D to what we've currently done that could provoke people, physicians as well as the patient community that we surround ourselves with, that could recognize in advance when you're not feeling the symptoms to anticipate this moment and not take that exit ramp.
Right. Well, usually it's a symptom that gets someone to action. So it's difficulty, demise, darkness, or challenge that leads them on, right? Until people are diagnosed with cancer, they don't think about cleaning up their diet, but then suddenly they become dietetically driven. That's great. It would have been nice to think about that sooner. So I guess the and would be, how do we, in all realms, whether it was school teachers, landscapers, firefighters, firefighters want you to make sure your fire extinguishers are charged properly, so they live in this realm of pursuing how do you help people not end up in a fire.
Yeah.
And prevention isn't even a wise conversation, because you can't prevent as much as you can choose to live in an idealized state. So I guess the opportunity for you and I really appreciate you bringing this up, and you instigated this because the other day this conversation came up where up here asked something of you, I think, about like what's the darkest moment in a patient's course.
How to address it.
Oh, that was
recognizing it exists. And now I'm giving you examples of how to be proactively addressing it, so people anticipate getting to a place of lack of symptoms.
And I shared with you that this is a regular stamp item for me, because I know I don't want to have my life's work defined by helping people not feel pain. I want my life's work to be defined by leaving people choosing higher behaviors regardless of pain. So I said to you that regularly I say to patients before they get to know pain, I say, look, I want to warn you, chiropractic works really well, and a lot of people, they experience what I consider one of the most dangerous moments they'll ever see in their process. So Mrs. Jones, I want you to know now, beware. One of the worst things that could possibly happen to you as we do our work together is that you will probably get to a point where you feel better. And that's just terrible, because most people, once they start feeling better, they forget the choices and actions they had to engage to begin to get better. And then they get out of pain, and ultimately their physiology is going to get worse because they take an exit ramp of going right back to what they were doing before. That was it.
Yeah. So I think that's a great example for us in this podcast to present something that you can relate to, and a different way of communicating it that will hopefully inspire you, not just to take a different action in your own practice, but really to bring that to the communities around you, and to bring it to people that would benefit from hearing this and recognizing that's what we do. That's who TLC is. That's who we are raising. We nurture relationships with people that practice procedures that result in longevity. We're not here for a short-term fix. We're here for a long-term change in the perspectives so that our communities can live differently and live in a healthy way. So.
Yeah, and we love that these conversations apply across professions.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really,
I love that.
It's not just privy to a chiropractic dialogue, veterinarians, whoever. So
Yeah, every aspect of life. So it's our hope in bringing these podcasts that, yes, it's information that's stimulating, but even more so that it compels you to act differently and to share it in community. And we really want to remind you that we read and respond to messages. So as you're watching this, if there's a topic that you want us to address, just message it as you're watching it and comment on these and make sure you share it, because everybody does better with more TLC, and we're here to raise up a community of people that are living differently, that have longevity. So please share and comment and engage with us in these short conversations.
And come out to some of the events. We love to, after perhaps a digital relationship like this, we get to meet you firsthand, and you can
absolutely.
impact our
Engage.
lives. Yeah.
Thank you for watching, and look out for our new episode in just 1 week.